Good morning.
Welcome back to the morning show on Tobago Updates Television. I am Adanna Combie, and we continue conversations this morning. We're speaking with Rhondall Fields. Rhondall Fields is the founder of Fathers Association of Trinidad and Tobago. And of course, as we celebrate the boy child today, we're going to have conversations surrounding the boy child and his development and things that unfold in Trinidad and Tobago that impact his life. Good morning, Rhondall, and welcome.
Morning, and thank you for having me, Adanna.
Of course, a pleasure for you to be here this morning. Of course, we know that you're an advocate primarily for fathers having access to their children. And of course, that the cause for men is very near and dear to your heart. And of course, if we're talking about boys will eventually grow to be men. And so we're having the conversation this morning now, how are we going to get our boys to be men? And I know the crime issue in Trinidad and Tobago is a specific issue that you are concerned about, and the fact that it's taking the lives of our young men and that our young men are involved in criminal activities as well. So tell us, where do you sit this morning where this conversation is concerned?
I mean, I'm critically concerned about our young boys. And I mean, for years we've lamented about the failing to treat with issues pertaining to men and how we can impact young boys. Because as we always say, boys don't grow up to be dinosaurs. They also don't grow up to be women. They grow up to become men. And if we don't address the issues that pertain to men, and even those that we're seeing now pertaining to young boys, we're going to have the problem that we have seen rearing its ugly head at this point in time. It's hurtful to me that in a generation like this, after we've seen what exclusion has done in the past to the past society, that we see it as a prudent move when we have innovative programs, when we have educational programs, when we have programs that will develop leadership thinking and mindset, that we are purposely in this generation leaving boys out. I mean, and these are things being funded both by international sponsors, both by private corporate organizations locally, and both by state organizations, state authorities locally as well. We've seen programs that are there to develop ICT skill, ICT for girls in our public space. We've seen programs also like I Create STEM. Chuck E. Cheese just loaded that one there. I Create STEM for girls only. Things that when it comes to robotics and all this new type of technology, when it comes to artificial intelligence, things that I know that boys will be excited about. And we're just not seeing corporate entity, we're not seeing state entity giving boys this opportunity to be a part of it as well. And when I often ask the reasoning is that they said that girls or females fall behind in these fields. And the thing is, what hurts me is that we do not use local statistic to substantiate that belief. Because I will tell you the Digital Inclusion Survey, in 2021 proved quite the opposite. That since these programs have been out, boys are actually the ones that are falling a bit behind girls. They are the ones that need actually the assistance just as much as girls need it. And it makes no sense to me, even if it were true that boys were ahead of girls. What is the reasoning that you would leave one party out just to advance the other? I would imagine that the creation of the opportunity for both boys and girls would balance any imbalance there in the first place. I see this as a very troublesome and a very frightening thing that's taking place in our society, something that I think people are actually cheering on, that we should be very cautious of, because we are now taking away opportunity from young boys and giving them a greater future that seems that will have more that will be more driven into hopelessness. And that is my fear. That is why you're seeing them on the blocks. That is why you're seeing them having less opportunity to get involved in. Most of the things that they're being involved or being allowed to participate in is things that the normal person or the things that we don't see as great academic achievement.
And I'm thinking also, Rhondall, even if they bring on these programs, these initiatives that will include boys, I'm hoping, what is your view in terms of sustainability? Because sometimes we launch programs. There's the Empower TT program. There's so many. There are other programs that include boys. But my question now is the few programs that are available and, you know, that are available for young boys or even men, is there any measure of sustainability or continuation, or is it that they launch is it that a program is launched and then, well, it's launched and then that's it? What is the follow through that takes place to ensure that the young people, primarily in this conversation, boys, are engaged so that they're taken off the streets and they're taken out of the place of crime or idleness that will lead to criminal activities?
And that's the thing, in the few programs, as you rightly identified, the people will speak, and those programs aren't only for boys. Those are programs offered to boys and girls more so. Because even MyLat now has an arm that's going to be introduced for young ladies as well. But you're right, the sustainability of it. We've heard a number of persons I work closely with MyLat that they would complain that, all right, we take the boys out of the street, we get them their passes, because that's the academic side of it MyLat treats with. And then what? We can't find jobs for all of them in the Ministry of National Security. What happens to the rest of them that goes back on the street? And that's it. There's no post follow-up, as into no sustainability. And not only just sustainability, even within the program itself, there's a lack of resource where it comes to the employment and the hiring of those who may be best equipped to do this type of training as well. So you see the training, and I'm not talking about MyLat training alone. I'm not talking about CCC. I'm not talking about MIC. I'm talking about generally all across the board. Are we getting or spending the money that we need to spend, giving the resources to those that are there, and employing those who are best equipped to train them at a high level, not just at an amateur level, but at a high level, so that when they come out, they are employable or self-employable. They could form a business. Are we giving them the strategies during these programs? Are we bringing in those people from legal affairs to tell them how to set up a business? Are we bringing in people to teach them about financial management, financial literacy? Are we putting in or creating as part of these programs little pieces that will make the skill that they acquire a sustainable skill, a beneficial skill, a productive skill? Because giving them a skill and them not giving them the mindset is all futile. It will only add up to you being able to go on a budget day and say, hey, we did an XYZ programs under this ministry, XYZ programs under that ministry. And where's the monitoring and evaluation that tell us that this program actually worked? This program actually changed the lives of so many young boys. They were headed in this direction, and now we have, out of 100, we have 80 success stories. Unfortunately, 20% fell by the way. We need to look at a new strategy going forward. Where's the monitoring and evaluation of that? So you're correct. You're quite correct to say that. But I'll say it's not just about looking at making it sustainable after, but putting within the program what the young people or the young boys are going to be that are going to be a part of that program can take with them to make the skill that they've acquired something that will earn them income and will sustain not only them but their families in time to come.
And Rhondall, I know that you're an advocate, a very, very, very vocal advocate, and very passionate about the things that you do. Have you been having any or the opportunity to have conversations with decision makers in terms of implementing this type of program and the rollout and the continuity of it to ensure that our boys are in a place where they can progress in life the same way that they have been investing in girls and women? Have you been able to have conversations with policymakers and decision makers for people to come on board and for them to make strong and determined decisions where our boys are concerned?
We've had the ears of the people on the ground straight to the people up on top. But to have the ears is one thing, is to get the hands to move. That is the other thing. There is, and because, as I said, there is not a trend, a current trend to invest in boys or to speak to the enrichment or the empowerment of boys at this point in time. That is why we're seeing the apathy or this apathetic nature when it comes to the real and true investing in boys. And I continue to say that is a ludicrous and ridiculous position to take, because we are seeing that right now, young males are the ones that are the greatest perpetrators of crime, the greatest perpetrators of murderous crime. They are also the greatest victims of murderous crime as well. So we are having an issue with our young males. We are seeing the suicide rate of young males and old males at as high as 84%. We're seeing them homeless. We're seeing them at the psychiatric wards, and we're not seeing them in small percentages. The statistics showing that they're there from 80% to the 90th percentile range. Yet, no strategies that are coming out. People have heard. They've heard us from on the ground. They've heard us up to the Parliament and the Joint Select Committee from since 2018, and I've promised to make moves. But the only time I hear or get responses from them is when tragedy hits. When 11 babies die, then they want to consider the value of paternity leave. Or when a child gets beheaded, then the AG then remembers that we had a meeting set up with him from 2022. A promise he's made to meet with us within this month, and he seemed to have forgotten again. So who do we speak to again now other than men themselves? And I speak on men as the grown counterpart of young boys. We are the ones that need to stand for them. And next year is an election year. And regardless of your political affiliation, I request of you to request of them within their manifestos to show us their interest in young males and older males in our society. And if we sell our votes short again, we will have another 5 years to suffer. Young boys will have another 5 years to miss out on important programs that will develop them into positively influenced males if we men do not take a serious stand in this general election coming up.
Rhondall, I want to thank you so much. You know, of course, as I mentioned before, that your activism is very, very passionate, and I know that you are working very hard to ensure that a space is created for boys and men in our society here in Trinidad and Tobago. And I do hope that the ears that you've had are hearing you, and as you mentioned, that the hands move swiftly to implement these programs to ensure that our boys are taken off the street. We are seeing so many things happening where young boys are concerned, and I do hope that something is put in place to ensure that they are safe, that a safe place is created for them, and that they are engaged in something that is profitable for their future and even for their present. So all the best with your continued activism, and I do hope to hear from you again with some measure of positive outcomes where this is concerned. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, ladies and gentlemen. We've been speaking with Rhondall Fields, founder of Single Fathers Association of Trinidad and Tobago, speaking there about the issues facing young boys and men here in Trinidad and Tobago as we celebrate the International Day of the Boy Child. So we do hope some resolve will come there soon. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to go for a short break before we continue conversations this morning in studio with our guest. And of course, before we go, we invite you to help us share the live, share the live, share the live. We'll be right back.